MeherBaba's mantra was, according to me, while eating, remember him. While drinking, remember him. While talking, also remember him. And be married always, not be married several times. That is one according to several be married, but not be married several times. Only once.
Oh, and just one thing to say. When we wrote the letters, in one of the letters I must have written, we eat, drink, and breathe Baba. And Mani always quotes that. It's so funny. We eat, drink, and it's so beautiful to do that every waking moment. To just remember, constant remembrance. It keeps you out of mischief, I think. Right?
Would anyone else care to comment? Irwin?
In 1961, when Baba had also a lot of candle meetings on the many people here, um, the last thing that happened before everyone was dismissed from seeing Baba that day was, and I should just say that everyone had gone, Baba had dismissed everyone, everyone had gone on the door. And my brother and I were lingering in the back by the doors looking at Baba, and Baba was the only one in the room about close to his size, sitting in his chair, just watching as everyone was leaving. And we were sort of peeking at Baba that was looking at him. He was standing by the doors, and everybody else was milling out in the back, and all of a sudden, Baba just went like this. And Erich, who was there, just pulled some. He was looking the other way. He snapped around. How he knew Baba's was starting to gesture, you see. And Baba looked straight at us and he said, through his gestures, remember, I am God. This meant God. He said, remember, I am God in human form. And then he gestured again. He said, remember, I am God in human form. With that, he went like that.
Anybody else? Would anyone else care to comment on the theme Keep Me With You?
Well, I just think how to keep Baba with me. And then I remember that he's always with me, but I'm the one who's not there sometimes. So what I just want to share that what really works with me is whatever, repeating Baba's name or just remembering him in any way that you can. And I shared in a little workshop yesterday, there was a little song, when you're all alone, no one to tell your troubles to. Remember me, I'm the one who loves you. So sometimes when I just, have problems, or where am I, get distracted by the world, I just come back to the one thought or words that I could hear Baba saying to me is that I love you. So I think if we could all just go away remembering that, to remind ourselves, to even hear in our own hearts and minds, Baba say to us, I love you. That's all that really matters. I love you. And those three words really work a lot for bringing Baba's remembrance and keeping him near. Just to remember those words that he's saying to us. I love you. It's a personal relationship, how you want to remember him. You can remember in so many different ways. I mean, following real happiness, like making others happy. But for all of us in India, none of us in India, we feel that singing his praise, singing his aarti, saying his prayers is a part of that remembrance. But with Baba, it's a very, very personal relationship. So you work out your way how you want to remember him. But it's very, very essential that we remember him because he's remembering us every waking moment. And that's very special.
I just have to add one last thing to that. In remembering Baba, we should also remember it's not an intellectual exercise. It really has to be where you bring your feelings and your heart to play. To think in terms of Baba, in terms of love, and what Baba is as love, being universal, being everywhere, being everything. And to remember him through the heart is where you'll feel the happiness of his remembrance.
In my experience, sometimes when I think of Baba and I wouldn't feel for days and months, just emptiness. The thing that has comforted me is that I know that even if I have trouble remembering Baba, or feel that I'm not remembering him, or yes, I always am reminded that he's there. He's shown me in many occasions, and I'm sure a lot of you have that experience, that when you feel that he's furthest away, he's like right behind your shoulder. And what I've learned is not during those, I used to get worried in the early days about, oh, I can't remember, I'm not remembering, I didn't remember Baba, why didn't I think of Baba? And he always somehow is right there saying, so he's the one who will always, when you forget, he's always the one who reminds you. And I feel that when he brings us to that point where we trust, then it's like that remembrance is something that you don't even think about consciously. You don't have to, because I'm not saying you don't ever have to, but he gives us that remembrance constantly of him by being present with us. Always, everywhere, in our breath.
And one more last thing. This has to do with the first time when I first heard about Baba, and also just before he dropped his body, which was a span of about 10 years. When I first heard about Baba, and I had read about Baba saying that we should remember him and such, I really didn't trust myself then. So at that time, I was thinking, I hope that somehow I can get to Bob and there can be some sort of impression made where Bob will not forget me, remember me. So then I don't have to worry about remembering him because he'll be remembering me. 10 years later, just before Bob actually dropped his body, the very last letter that went to Bob, and of course I didn't know my last letter because I didn't know Bob was leaving his body, but this very last letter in it, for some reason, I wrote down, please do not forget to remember when you go. And I don't know why he said that. It was a very unusual thing to be said. And then the next things we heard that Bob had dropped his body. So I had the unique privilege of actually asking the avatar to remember when he's telling us all the time to remember him before we go.
I believe it, Irwin got to MeherBabaLibrary exactly 1 hour before they covered Bob's body. So I think Bob did remember.
It was the 11th hour.
Now we check to Irwin's story. He wrote that Baba should not forget him. So that Baba should remember.
Because I didn't trust myself.
Yeah. But when we last read and talked about exactly 40 days before we dropped this body, while we were filing funds, we gestured this way. Those that Robert, don't worry, be happy. He said, don't worry, be happy. Remember me constantly, just love me. So all the time, the message was always, it was a daily ritual with Meher Baba. Remember me, hold on to my tongue. This was, he was doing it like this all the time, constant. In fact, he was imploring his lovers, love me, remember me, hold on. And once he said, I have no use for all these flowers and sweets that you bring. What I want, you don't know what I want. So people started asking him, what do you want, Baba? He said, I want your imperfections. Give me your imperfections. This is what he declared actually. Give me your imperfections so that I can cleanse you of all your imperfections.
In other words, it's a come as you are party. So that I can fix you up.
That's very easy, you know.
That's why he's with us. And that guidance. And he's running over us.
And anything else?
All right, one more. When Baba had dropped his body, then naturally he didn't expect that we were getting any more messages from Baba, but that was not the case. My dad had at the time been writing to Baba and making certain demands of things that he wanted. He had to stop. And of course, then he received the news that Baba had dropped his body. He was really very affected by it. Not because of his letters, but just because that happened. And lo and behold, when we went to India to be there to help cover Baba, we know that's what happened. Erich comes up to me and hands me a message, which was a telegram that Baba had dictated before he left his body to be sent to my father. And also, it had to do with us. And even though Baba had dropped his body, he was still remembering us, and he was winding up all the loose ends that there was in that message. That happened right after Baba dropped his body. He was giving us a message about this will not be doing. And there was a few other things too that Baba had left instructions with mine for us before he left his body, for us to carry out afterwards. See, so we weren't forgotten. Avatar did remember.
Can you share any of those instructions, or were they too personal?
Well, as I say, one of them had to do with my dad's wanting certain things, and one of the things he wanted was for us to stay with him again. And it was an ongoing thing. He wanted us to stay, and then he'd get unhappy about this and that, and then he'd want us to leave. And he would write to Baba that we should now leave. And then we'd be gone for a few months, and Baba would say, "Well, that's all right. We can." We would go, and then he'd be writing to Baba, "Oh, you know, he misses us, and why we have to leave like that." Back and forth we go. Finally, Baba said one day, "You must make up your mind. I have no objection whether Irwin and Edward stay with you or they leave, but you have to decide and stick to it." Well, this was one of those episodes in which he wanted to leave, and now he wanted us back, you see. So Baba this time said yes, that Mayor Baba has already decided. This was before, in other words, the way Baba was putting it, even before my father wrote that letter, he had already decided. Baba said, "I have already decided to order Irwin and Edward to remain home with you, but it will be up to you to keep them with you with your love. That means the slave. And and then it was right. Right. So that was that one thing. There was one other incident too, um, but that's a too long story. I don't think I should tell that now because this isn't the time for it.